Hey guys, doing this video really quick because I'm not feeling the best, it's late and all that jazz. But I want to run through how to install the gauge and everything. This will be on YouTube as well after. So when you get the zip downloaded, you will get these items in your folder. You want to read this, it'll tell you everything, but otherwise what you need to do is basically copy these three folders into your prepared folder. You then want to go to app data, so percentage, app data percentage, which is where you'll find your Lockheed Martin folder, and you want to edit the DLL.XML file and add these lines into it. To add the gauge to an actual aircraft, you will need to find an aircraft such that you want to add it to. In this case we'll go for the P8 by PMDG, and there's a trick with the Poseidon that PMDG does. You need to add the cameras into the bottom section here, so you can basically do an almost copy and paste of this in, because it's actually set up for the P8. You then need to add into the panel folder the stuff to bring up the panel. For the P8, that means going to the 737-800 NGX panel and adding the window 20, or in this case, and this section here. Again, both you can find this in here. When it's done and you load in, you can select the aircraft. So we're going to select we'll select the RAF Poseidon. I'm going to load it up at Edinburgh, simply because I prefer doing it at Edinburgh, and we're going to move the time to daylight just for the sake of this. Now, if the gauge is working, what you'll see happen, if you're not certain if it's working, is if we come to our prepared version 3 folder, the moment prepared starts, you'll start getting a log called sensorgauge.log, and this file basically contains exactly what it says, log for the sensor gauge. So it's an easy and quick way of checking if the gauge itself is working. Now, once you're into the aircraft, we'll wait for the 737 to finish loading in here. What you should see, presuming you've done your panel properly, under Instrument Panel is the new panel. In this case, radar and camera. Now, the actual radar itself is based off the standard Lockheed Martin prepared 3D SDK example. You can click and move the cursor by clicking and dragging, or just single clicks. It's a fully working air-to-ground radar. So just to show that, we're going to cheat for a moment here, and we'll shrink this back down so we can see the aircraft. We're going to turn the auto throttle on, slam on the autopilot options and give ourselves some speed, and then we're going to really cheat because I really cannot be bothered getting this thing in, spending 5 minutes to get this thing in the air and delete properly. So now that we're airborne, we're going to set speed, lock this in, and we're going to lock in a heading and an out hold, and we'll bring it back around to the south. So of course the aircraft's doing its best to try and not have a small heart attack, but we just lost the autopilot. Not the recommended way of engaging the autopilot either. Heading select, out hold. So, with the aircraft working, you can see that we're actually getting the scan of everything we can. If we look here, we can see that we're at 60 nautical miles. We can adjust the range by going and using the plus and minus down here. We can change the sweep angle, which of course increases the rate at which it scans. And we can change the zoom when we don't have the camera up with these buttons or by rolling the mouse. We can freeze an image at any point by freeze, and we can do a track cursor, but this is really now for when you're doing it with the camera active. So to activate the camera, first you click on eTurret, which will bring up the camera view. And we can do a couple of things at this point. We can move the camera by using the little plus keys and everything down here. We can reset the camera back to its default with the R. We can change the camera mode with the M. Though it does not always function with some of these. This is a beta and it's still being worked through. And we can change the track mode with by either trying to track an object by looking at it and pressing the track, which will try and lock it into a entity track mode. If it can't, it will put it into a ground track mode. And to reset out of that, we press the T, and we'll move back, and we can see that we're back in standard track mode. Now, when we have the camera up, this zoom here controls the camera zoom. The other option we have is to click an area and tell it that we want to track the cursor. And as you can see, the camera is snapped to the cursor location. Now, we have 4 different cameras that can be set. In this case, this one's a standard grayscale of IR camera. We can also switch to camera 2. It's more just a standard low light style camera, though you'll notice that when we did, it kind of untracked us. We just reset. We have a colour version, and I believe at the moment the third camera is also a colour one. Then clicking this again will return us to the main camera. To turn the camera off or to reset the camera, to reset the camera we press the R, but to turn the camera off we simply click the eTurret button again. bring it back on, track down. Now, because this one's specifically set, sometimes, like I said, the mode switch change doesn't always function at the moment. It's being worked through. Sometimes bugs happen. This one just, at the moment, mode switch is just not working. At least not with this button. You should be able to do a mode switch code-wise, but that's completely different. Anyway, that's how a quick look at how you use the gauge, how it runs, and all that fun stuff. And I'm going to end the stream, get it uploaded to YouTube so that everybody has an idea, and yeah. Though I should note very, very quickly that if we did have an entity down here, it will track it, so that's just something you should be aware of, though it will not track if you have it pointed at the sky or something like that. Okay, catch you later.